Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about labor statistics. So before we begin, we should probably go over some definitions. The main ones are going to be employed and unemployed because these are super crucial to our labor statistic calculations. So what does it mean to be employed? To be employed, you must be working either a full-time or a part-time job. To be unemployed, you must not be working. However, you are actively searching for a job. A discouraged worker, these are essentially individuals who are not working, but they're also not actively searching for work. And this is super crucial, these discouraged workers, because this is going to be important for our labor force statistics. So speaking of labor force, what is one? And how do we get to that number of what the labor force in an economy might be? So labor force is essentially the sum of the employed and the unemployed people. And like I said, the discouraged workers was super crucial. And the reason why is because discouraged workers, along with students, retirees, etc., are not included in the labor force. It's only going to be people who are working, the employed, and people who are not working but actively searching for a job. This makes up your labor force. Now let's go into labor statistics. How do we calculate them? So the best way to learn is probably going to be just going through an example, and we can go kind of step by step. So let's say hypothetically that China has 400 million employed individuals, 300 million unemployed, 100 million discouraged workers, and 900 million of the population are above the age of 15. So we're going to answer these questions. What is the labor force participation rate? What is the employment rate? And what is the unemployment rate? So what is the labor force participation rate? Before we calculate this, we should probably understand what it means. A labor force participation rate is calculated by taking the labor force and dividing it by the number of people over the age of 15. This is done because right around that age of 15 is when most people can begin working. So it basically shows us how many people of working age are participating in a labor market. We need to first determine China's labor force. And this is going to be done by taking 400 million employed people and adding it to the 300 million unemployed. And once again, remember to avoid adding in the discouraged workers as they don't get included in the labor force numbers. Now we take this 700 million that we got and we divide it by the 900 million people above the age of 15. And this gives us a 77.78% labor force participation rate. When broken down into plain English, that basically means that 77.78% of the working age people are participating in the labor market. So, what is an employment rate? Well, next we should determine what an employment rate really means, how it is calculated, etc. So, an employment rate is the percent of people over the age of 15 that are employed, and is calculated by taking the number of employed people and dividing it by the number of people over the age of 15. So in our example, we're going to take 400 million employed people and divide it by 900 million. And this gives us a rough employment rate of 44.44%. Next, we're going to go on to unemployment rate. And pay special attention to this one because the formula changes a little bit. Now, when we look into it, essentially, what does it mean? It's basically the percentage of people in the labor force that are unemployed. And this is calculated by taking the number of unemployed and dividing it by the number of people in the labor force. And the key word there is the labor force, not the working population, the people over the age of 15. So that's where that major difference is. And we're going to see that in our denominator, we're using the labor force, that's 700 million. And that's giving us a 42.86% unemployment rate. And once again, ensure that you're not using the number of people over the age of 15 in the denominator, as that would be incorrect. Unemployment measures the unemployed as a percent of the labor force. So labor statistics, why are they important? Well, first of all, let's go over long-term unemployment. It's essentially unemployment that lasts longer than 27 weeks. And this is super crucial because it has a few effects. Well, right now, roughly 1/6 of Canadians are underutilized in the labor markets. A major issue in our society also is that unemployment is higher for women, Indigenous people, as well as new Canadians and immigrants. As well as a super crucial one is unemployment is not only bad for the economy, like we often talk about, but it's also super bad for mental health. Particularly long-term unemployment is really bad for mental health. So these are super important issues, and it's a reason why it's often talked about. So that's why labor statistics are so important because they help measure not only how the economy might be doing, but also how people in the country might be doing. And that's it. Thank you.